Hi, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. I'm author of The Snowball System, and I and my teams have trained over 15,000 high-end professionals, deep technical experts all over the world on sound, efficient, and authentic business development skills. I'm joined today by Josh Linkner. Josh is a gem of a person. He's written several best-selling books. His newest one's called Big Little Breakthroughs. And he's just got all these amazing ideas on how you can take the idea of innovation and make it really easy to apply in your everyday life. Now, Josh is particularly interesting for our show because he's run businesses. He's been a CEO. He runs his own very successful business now. He has to do his own business development. So it was just so easy for us to talk about how to use the concepts in Big Little Breakthroughs and apply it to business development. So I had a ball in this episode where we asked him what are the biggest ideas he has in Big Little Breakthroughs to make us successful at growing our book of business, growing our relationships, and if we do that, grow our career. So before we get into it, if you want to learn those things and get an instant download and weekly tips on how to grow your book of business, how to grow your relationships, and grow your career, all you have to do is head over to growbigplaybook.com. It's growbigplaybook.com. Sign up there. You'll get an instant download with the 8 beliefs you need to have in your head to become great at growth. And you'll get weekly little tips, 3, 4, 5-minute reads really fast on how you can improve your skills on a weekly basis. growbigplaybook.com. So here we go. Let's get into it. I had a ball interviewing Josh Linkner. Josh, I just can't wait for our audience to hear your answers to our big questions. I appreciate all the prep that we've done. And what is exciting for me is because the book hasn't come out yet. A little spoiler alert for everybody. There's a book coming out. Because the book hasn't come out yet, as we tape this, I don't actually know what your answers are going to be, which I'm actually really excited about. So, Josh, here's the first big question. What is your big idea that can help our audience, people with one foot in the delivery of some complex service, one foot in business development, retention, growth, things like that? What's your big idea for them on how they can focus on business development, grow their book of business, grow their relationships, and grow their career? Go.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's really a pleasure to be with you, and I'm a big fan of your work. My big idea is actually a little idea. And so we're going to flip the notion around and call it like a big little idea. And so the big little idea is this: we don't need to swing for the fences. We don't need to take irresponsible risks. We don't need to bet our careers and our companies on one idea when we have the pleasure, the delight really, of cultivating lots and lots of small ideas. The book coming out, Big Little Breakthroughs, How Small Everyday Innovations Drive Oversized Results. It's exactly that. It's flipping around the notion that innovation only counts if it's a $1 billion idea or if it changes the world. And it's democratizing. It's kind of like innovation and creativity for the rest of us. So for the listeners, the big little idea is that when we think of creativity as small little acts, daily habits of small micro innovations, it becomes wildly accessible. It becomes lower risk. In other words, we can try 15 little ideas without risking too much. And at the same time, we're actually building skills. So it's the easiest, most effective, lowest risk way to approach disruption, innovation, creative problem solving in service of growing our businesses. But again, it's a way of de-risking it and growing skills at the same time by thinking small.
I love this. One of the things that our audience can really struggle with is just doing the business development at all, because they can get swallowed up in the delivery. The clients have needs. They've got some kind of initiative that they're leading at their firm, at their organization. They've got all of a sudden there's a person they need to interview on the spur of the moment, on next Tuesday or whatever. All these things are yanking them away from business development, which is probably the most important key to their success of their career. So give me some examples. I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some examples people can do? And they don't have to be business development, bonus points if they are, but what are little examples of this idea of how you can do this?
Well, again, when we think of terms like innovation and creativity, it feels overwhelming and out of reach. But when we democratize it and make it accessible to us all in little acts, we're trying little things all the time. Maybe you experiment with the way you do an outbound prospecting email. Maybe you try rearranging your Monday morning sales meeting. Maybe you go, instead of the obvious approach to a new client, you take an oppositional approach, try something totally different. So the goal here isn't big, scary innovation. It's lots of small ones. And by the way, those little ones can add up to big things. And can I just share one example, a personal one, if I may?
Yes, do it.
So I was building my own company, and I was in the same boat. Like I was a sales and marketing driven CEO. I had a company called ePrize. We designed, built, and ran digital promotions for large brand advertisers. Anyway, we had the chance to win this massive account, the biggest in our company's history, from a huge global brand. And we were desperately competing to win. We eventually made it. There was a bake-off. We made it to the finals. There was 3 companies remaining. My little shop from Detroit, Michigan, my hometown, and 2 much larger companies. The problem is this: the buyer, the decision maker, I hate to say it, he was kind of mean. And I'm sure we've all had, prospects and clients like this. And he was abrasive and difficult, but he was actually dragging the process out. He kept setting a deadline to make a decision, blew every deadline. So we were getting frustrated and we just wanted some closure. Anyway, I bumped into this man and his wife at an industry conference, and I'm trying everything I know to close the deal. I'm running up to him at every coffee break and every meal. Nothing worked. He's totally dismissive. Until, here's what happens next. I saw him at the airport. It turns out when we were leaving this conference, him and his wife were on the same outbound flight that I was. So here's what happens next. Mo, I can't even make this up if I tried. So the guy hears his name over the loudspeaker. He gets an upgrade to first class. Well, being the gentleman that he is, this guy, he takes the seat for himself and sends his wife on back to coach. And like, for the record, if I did that with my wife, Tia, I'd be sleeping on the couch for 6 months. Like, that's not happening. But anyway, before I could process this whole thing, I heard my own name. And it turns out I also got an upgrade to first class, frequent traveler. So I walk on the flight, and sure enough, I have the seat next to him. Now think what our sales instincts, our business development instincts are telling us right now. I was feeling it. Go in for the kill, close the deal. You've got his attention. Don't walk off the plane without a contract. But instead, I did the opposite. I pursued a big little breakthrough. So I walked on, I said, "Hey man, I have the seat next to you." And he looks up, "Hey, that's cool. We could chat." And I said, "I'd love that. Problem is, I plan to catch up on a bunch of work on this flight. And I also noticed that your wife is sitting in back. So how about we switch seats? You two can enjoy some family time. I'll get my work done back in coach." So he thanks me and he's very polite. I went back to tell his wife, gave her my ticket, and she gets like a little teared up. She says, "Thank you so much. This means the world to me." Anyway, flight takes off. I didn't think that much about it until we landed. And the first thing we all do when we land is we check our mobile device. Anyway, I look down at mine and I see an email from my office. "Josh, deal signed." And here's what happened. True story. Here's what he later told me. He said, "I was looking for a tiebreaker. So when you demonstrated some humanity instead of just chasing the bottom line, when you showed a willingness to be innovative in the moment," he said, "that's what made my decision." So before the flight took off, he texted into his team. They had signed it at headquarters, sent it back to us, and we closed the deal because of that big little breakthrough. It was a $30 million account. It didn't happen by me going crazy and swinging for the fences. It happened by me cultivating a small act of everyday creativity. And in this case, game changer.
Josh, I love it. I love the idea. I love the story, and I love the example. And my mind is spinning around all kinds of things that people can do. When we think about business development as a process, how do I meet new people? How do I cultivate relationships? Home run on your big little breakthrough in that one. How do I create demand for my services with my big brain, my company's, my organization's expertise? How do I talk about money, close deals, expand from there? I think what people could do using what you've taught us is to look for all the little things we can test within that business process. And so many professionals think of business development as this mysterious thing they can't learn, but it's just a series of miniature experiments. So comment on that. That'll be our last big question, but tell us sort of like, how can you systematize this a little bit? How can you get yourself outside your comfort zone and trying a lot of these little things? And we'll wrap up this episode. We'll go deeper in a couple more that we're going to take.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. It's more of a process or a system than a raw art form. It's not like you have to have, be imbued with lightning bolts from the heavens to be creative. All of us can do this, and it's a systematic approach. The simple thing that I recommend people do is this. It's a technique that I call the judo flip. The judo flip is simply taking a hard look at what everybody else is doing, what conventional wisdom is telling you, what's the prevailing, approach in your industry or what you've always done before, and sort of taking an inventory and then asking the question, what's the polar opposite? what's the exact opposite that you might do? So when for a sales instinct, sit down next to your biggest prospect and sell, sell, sell. The polar opposite, give the seat to his wife. And so this applies whether we're prospecting or cultivating relationships or even positioning our product or service. Instead of blending in with the herd and doing what's expected, try giving it a judo flip.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm holding back because I want to go deeper, but we're going to do that in our next episode. So folks, if you like this one, in the next episode, Josh and I are going to dig deep into how do you get more deals across the goal line? And you can imagine how we're going to use this for that. So spoiler alert, make sure you watch it so that you can learn from it. So Josh, people are going to want to know more about the book, how they can interface with you. What should they do to take the next step?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm really proud of my new book. It's called Big Little Breakthroughs. You can just check it out online, biglittlebreakthroughs.com. There's all kinds of free tools. There's like an assessment tool. There's a bunch of downloads and worksheets and stuff. And I really do think whether you buy the book or not, it's going to be a helpful toolkit for you to become an everyday innovator. So yeah, check it out, biglittlebreakthroughs.com.
I love it. And folks, if you want to hear some big little breakthroughs about how you can win more business, you better check out the next episode. Thank you, Josh.